So, this happened around 2017 or 2018. I was in 8th grade and quite tall for my age, around 5'9". A house was for sale in my neighborhood, and it was filled pretty quickly since I lived next to a school. Every day for a week, I saw someone stand in front of the house, and I assumed it was just a new neighbor. But one day, I got off of the bus and started walking down the street. It was winter in Canada, and there were like tents where you can put your car under so it doesn't snow on it, and obviously you can't see behind it. So, I was walking next to the one in the driveway of the new neighbor. He was hidden behind it and just grabbed me by my arm and started trying to pull me inside. On quick reflexes, I hit him in the face with my keys, and he let go of me. I ran to my house and got in as quickly as possible and called the police. He was never caught, and police patrolled my neighborhood for a week after that. Also, it wasn't the new neighbor. So, a random creep who I thought was my next door neighbor? Let's not meet again. I never thought I'd have anything to post on this subreddit, but here I go. This literally just happened, so I'll try to keep this as short and organized as possible, but I apologize if it's neither of those two things. I'm a 29-year-old female, and my partner is a 23-year-old female. We're back in her hometown visiting her family for about a week. It's a very small, isolated town in the middle of nowhere, and basically in the middle of the woods. While we're here, she wanted to meet up with an old high school friend who still lives in the area. We'll call him Kyle. So, we meet Kyle at the beach, and right away, he's acting super weird, making jokes about having a three-way with us, and just making a bunch of unwelcome, overly sexual, gross comments. Obviously, we're unfortunately used to this stuff to a certain extent, but coming from someone who was supposed to be our good friend, it was extra annoying. So, me and my girlfriend are shooting each other panicked looks the whole time. Once he's out of earshot for a second, she says that she's sorry, that he's never been like this before, and we can make an excuse to leave. When he comes back, we tell him we want to get dinner at a local bar, but he just asks to join us. We felt awkward, so we end up saying yes. He says he doesn't know quite how to get there, so he follows us. We get there, order drinks and food, and then head out to the patio with the drinks. He makes a few more gross comments, but is generally being way more cool and normal than he was at the beach. We're smoking weed on the patio and chilling. The food comes quick, and we finish it quicker. Now here's where it gets really messed up. So halfway through my first drink, I'm feeling really tired, which makes sense as we've had a long day. I give my girlfriend the signal that I want to go. She makes up an excuse that we need to go. He keeps trying to get us to come to his house. I've got good weed and dabs there, and you can meet my cats, blah blah blah. He's being really pushy. We keep saying no and making excuses. We need to check up on our grandpa, etc. So finally, we get in the car and say goodnight. We've parked next to each other and walk up and into the cars together while saying our goodbyes. When we get in the car, my girlfriend informs me that she wants to stay at the bar, but fake it like we're leaving because she doesn't want to chill with him anymore, understandably. So we're sitting in the car waiting for him to leave first, and when he signals for us to roll down the window, we do. He says his GPS is being funny and asks if we can lead him to a main road. To be fair, we are in the middle of nowhere, so this didn't seem too outlandish. So, obviously, staying behind at the bar was out. So in the car, we're talking about how pushy he was being, and she admitted she feels weird driving right back to her grandpa's house, so we should drive into town until we lose him. He's behind us for a long time, even way after he should have gotten off on his exit. We think it's weird, but we weren't sure what to do. So, finally, we get on a 2-lane road, and he pulls up next to us, and he's waving a phone, which is clearly my girlfriend's phone, in the window. We pull over. He gives her the phone back, chats for just a few seconds, and then leaves in a hurry. Here's the part that makes my skin crawl. We know she had her phone. I saw her put it in her fanny pack, which was on the table, along with my phone and her weed, a few minutes before we left the bar, as we were preparing to leave. She didn't take it back out. There's literally no way she could have left it at the bar. More importantly, he got in his car and left the bar at the same time as us, meaning he had to have already had the phone when we were leaving. It's not like we left the bar first and he saw it left on the table or something. He literally had to have been walking to the cars with us and calmly saying goodnight with the phone already in his possession. Now the kicker. Apparently, unbeknownst to me, my girlfriend had tasted a very weird bitter taste in her straw at the bar and was already suspicious, especially with the way he'd been acting. This is why she wanted to stay back at the bar, to get away from him and stay in public where she felt it was safer. So when he walked up to the car to return her cell phone, she very casually and deliberately flashed the knife that she kept for protection in her jacket. I didn't know at the time that she had done this, so that's why it left so quickly. Obviously, I was annoyed with her for not telling me her suspicions sooner, but she just didn't want me to panic. I'm really shaken up. A few things are clear. 1, he stole my girlfriend's phone, and it seems like he did so that we'd be forced to pull over on a dark road in the middle of nowhere. 2, he quickly ended the conversation and left when my girlfriend flashed her knife. They've been good friends for almost 10 years. If he wasn't planning on doing something malicious, I feel like he would have acted confused about the knife, or said something like, "What the fuck? Why would you flash a knife at me? What is this, a bad movie?" Or something like that. But instead he just booked it, which tells me he knew exactly what she was doing, reacting to a threat and preparing to protect herself and me. 3, he probably spiked our drinks. My girlfriend noticed a weird taste in her straw right away and chose not to finish her drink. I finished half of mine and felt very tired. A few more things. I just don't know how he managed to nab the phone without us knowing or noticing. It doesn't really make sense, but he did. Me and my girlfriend both remember her putting her phone in the fanny pack perfectly. We also have no idea how he could have spiked our drinks, unless he was working with the bartender, but we were the ones who suggested that bar. I don't know exactly how he did it, but I think I know why. And for that reason, my girlfriend's now ex-friend, who made creepy sexual comments, probably tried to drug us, and stole her phone in order to get us alone on a dark road. Let's not meet again. So, to start from the beginning, I, a 30-year-old female, met this guy on Bumble, a 39-year-old male, while I was renting a room at a sober house in Colorado Springs to get everything squared away to officially move out here. Nursing license transferred, job, apartment, etc. After I officially moved out and got settled in, we talked on the phone a few times and decided to meet in person. It was about 4 in the afternoon, and we planned to have dinner and maybe go on a scenic drive. He had asked me to pick him up from his work, and we could go from there. I didn't think much of it at the time, so I went to his work and picked him up, figuring I would drop him back off so he could take his car and go home. The first thing he told me to do when he got in my car was to stop at the liquor store. He wanted to grab something for later. After he told me to stop at the liquor store, I felt kind of awkward because he knew that I was in recovery. At this point in my recovery, I feel okay with being around alcohol. He came out of the liquor store with 2 shooters of Patron and a bottle of vodka. Not even minutes after leaving the liquor store, and me heading to the place where we were going to get food, he's slamming the shots of Patron in my car. I started noticing with his behavior that he was very manic and kind of jumping from subject to subject, and then would randomly ask me if I was upset or if he had done something to make me mad. I already have all the bad vibes and can tell something is very off with him. During our drive to get food, he's telling me how when he was little, he threw a rock purposely at a bunny and killed it, and also within the last 5 years was at a bonfire with his friends and shot a cat that was in the field. At this point, I'm totally weirded out and already trying to figure out how I'm going to end the date. This was brought up very casually, like it was no big deal. Also, he knows that I have 3 cats. We get to the taco place, and he proceeds to ask the staff if they have no-carb tacos. The lady looks confused and basically was like, tacos are pretty much all carbs. He started getting anxious about what to order. I could tell with his mannerisms. I ended up just ordering for us. He proceeded to then get a beer to go, along with a shot of Patron. He was able to get it to go because of the whole COVID situation. So we get in my car, and now I have a bottle of vodka, 2 empty shot bottles of Patron, which he just tossed on the side of my door, as well as a to-go beer and another shot of Patron. He continues to drink and would randomly shout,
"Oh, look at us in Colorado eating great tacos. I'm drinking, you're driving. It's beautiful out here."
So I couldn't bear the date any longer and said I had to go meet a friend. He seemed a little upset and confused. So we get back to his dealership he works at, and he said it was fine to just drop him off. He wanted to go in the dealership that he owns, while people were still working and eat the tacos. He said,
"Let's go in. It's a beautiful place. I can drink comfortably, and we can eat the tacos."
I declined, and we ate them in the car quickly. When the plan was for us to go our separate ways, he then asked if I can just bring him home. I said okay. Anything to get him out of my presence at this point. He also lived close by my apartment. Before we head to his place, he said he had to grab some stuff out of his car. So he gets back in my car, and I hear him put something in the side of the door. I look over and see the handle of a gun. My stomach immediately dropped. I was like, "Is that a fucking gun?" He laughed and said,
"Yeah, I can't just leave it in my car. I love guns."
I told him I was super uncomfortable, and he just laughed like,
"Why would you be uncomfortable?"
I said, because I don't know you at all barely. This is our first time meeting, and now there's a gun in my car. Thinking back, I should have told him to get the fuck out, but I had never been in this kind of situation before, and the fact that there was now a loaded gun in my car and he was drunk, I didn't know what to do, so I just proceeded to leave the dealership and bring him home. So, on the way to his apartment, he then asked me if he can see my phone. I was thinking in my head like, okay, no way. You're drunk, you have a gun in my car, and now you want my cell phone? I asked why, and he kind of stuttered and said he wanted to look up a song. I said I would type it in, and he insisted that he did. I then just kind of blurted out, "No, you have a gun in my car, and now you want my cell phone. It's not happening." He kept seeming so alarmed that I was so freaked out about him having a gun in my car, and then wanting my phone. After typing in the song he wanted, I continued to humor him and make future plans, and talk about how great of a time I had. This was the only tactic I could think of to keep him in a positive mood and think that things were going great. All I could think of was the loaded gun next to him. So, finally, after what felt like hours, we get to his apartment. As he's getting out of my car, he goes to grab his gun very haphazardly and literally has his finger on the trigger. At this point, he was still in my passenger seat. He then steps out and could probably see the look of fear in my eyes, and he just fucking laughs. Then, he whipped the gun around the front of him and finally put it in his back pocket. Mind you, once again, he's been drinking the entire time, and also told me he had shot and killed a cat on purpose. He then told me to keep the bottle of vodka he had bought, so I had to come back later to watch a movie with him. I said absolutely not. Take the bottle and I'll call you after I meet my friend. I never again reached out, and I haven't heard from him since. Thank God. Hi, I'm bored in lockdown, and I thought I'd share another one of my creepy encounters in my life. When I was 8 or 9 years old, I went to a public swimming pool with my parents, their friend, and their daughter. For context, the public pool was a very large area. There were many pools for children and adults equally. There were also stairs built on a hill that would lead to another field where there was a sand playground, another sports pool, and various shops around. It was a very popular pool in my city for families. There was also my elementary school just at the end of the street, so many kids would go there in the summer. So, back to the story. We're having a nice day at the pool. Me and the friend's daughter, we'll call her Nikki, would do our own thing though, like most kids at the pool. The parents would mostly stay back at where you put the towels, and we would go to the pools, but always had to tell our parents where we were going. Nikki and I got bored of the pools, so we wanted to go to the downstairs playground. We told our parents, and since they were directly on the hill and able to see us from there, they said it was cool. Nikki and I looked like kids. It was the early 2000s, and there was no social media influence on kids yet, so kids dressed as kids. Neither of us had any womanly curves yet. I wore a two-piece children's swimsuit, and as far as I can remember, Nikki was only wearing swim shorts. But since she was only a child, she didn't have anything she had to cover up yet. The early 2000s were very loose when it comes to covering children up in public pools. Many children were also running around naked. As we were playing at the playground, which was close to the fence to the park, I heard a voice.
Hello?
At first, I wasn't sure if the voice was directed at us, and also I couldn't see anybody. I remember saying to Nikki, "Did you hear that?" But she hadn't heard it, so I thought it was just somebody on the phone in the park. Then, again.
Hello? Hey, little girls.
This time, we both heard it and started to look around. We noticed a figure standing at the other side of the fence, surrounded by the bushes. No wonder we couldn't see him. His face was almost completely covered by the leaves of the bushes, and we could only see parts of his shirt and trousers. He caught our attention.
Have you seen my jumping ball?
Yeah, he said jumping ball. Even back then, I thought it was weird. What? One of us asked. I can't remember who.
My jumping ball. I was playing with it and it fell over the fence. I think it fell somewhere in the bushes. Can you look for it?
My friend Nikki was eager to help him and went into the bushes to look around. I don't see anything, I remember her saying.
Do you have a second mouth?
The guy suddenly asked. A second mouth? What do you mean a second mouth? I asked. He just repeated the question. I suddenly felt very panicked. I thought all of this was very weird. I couldn't see the guy, but I noticed his hand kept moving very rapidly. I suddenly had a weird gut feeling and told Nikki that we should go back to our parents. I didn't tell her calmly. I said, let's go back, Nikki, and was already moving away, leaving her no choice but to follow me. We went back to our parents and told them what just happened. They jumped up and told us to show them where we met this guy. We led them downstairs to where he was, but he was gone. Our parents believed us anyway and told us to never interact with strangers again, to go to them and tell them straight away. I remember my dad saying, if somebody asks you if you have a second mouth, I am your second mouth, and you're going to get me immediately. I noticed how serious it was, and I knew from the beginning that something was wrong, but our parents' reactions made it very clear. Now, I know of course that he meant my downstairs area was a second mouth, and his rapid hand motion was due to him jerking off. Looking back, I'm very glad I listened to my gut feeling. So, weird kid lover from the early 2000s, let's not meet again, and I hope you got caught soon after this. This happened to my younger sister and I not too long ago, and I hope this doesn't ruin the case that we have going. There's a park about a 2-minute drive from my house, and about a 7-minute walk. We were hanging out at the park having a good time. We noticed a man sitting on the bench, just staring at us. It was around 6 p.m. and the park was decently full. I'm disabled, so I just assumed he was giving me a look for that. Unfortunately, it's a pretty normal occurrence, and I've even had people tell me that I'm too young to be using a cane, or to stop faking it. After a while, we left the park and went home. About an hour and a half goes by, and we noticed her phone was missing. We couldn't find it anywhere, and decided to go back to the park to look. At this point, it was dark and kind of foggy, but I've walked through this park a million times at night. It was about 8:30, and we got out of the car to go look where we had sat the entire time. It wasn't there, so we went back to the car to look there. We opened 3 of the 4 doors and turned on the lights in the car. All of a sudden, I had a sense of danger go down my spine and strike me at my core. I told my sister to get in the car and lock the doors, and we did. We sit there for a little while I try to regain my thoughts and figure out why exactly I'd felt like that. The car fogged up while we were sitting there, and I wiped some of the fog off the front windshields in my view from the passenger side. That's when I saw him. A man all alone, he looked to be in his mid-30s, standing by a lamppost staring directly at us. I watched him intently, and he started walking toward the car. We were both scared shitless. She had noticed him too, and all we could do was watch him, horrified. He got about 2 feet from the car, and acted like he was going to walk past it. Suddenly, he jumps out and aggressively tries to get into the car, jiggling the handle hard. I tell my sister to start the car and go. She puts the keys in the ignition and backs out, running over his foot. He pulls something out of his pocket and reaches down to the back tire, swinging what I now think was a knife. We drive home and call the police. They arrive and said he didn't commit a crime, and therefore they wouldn't investigate. I made a post on Nextdoor to warn parents to not let their children come to the park alone, since the park is in the neighborhood. I had a woman message me privately that he had come to her house selling pest control and asked to enter her home. She sent me a doorbell picture, and sure enough, it was him. I took note of the company name on the shirt, and I actually called them, telling them what happened to see if there was a misunderstanding. They told me that he doesn't work for them, and pointed out the logo on his shirt. Although it had the company name, it was a different color and didn't belong to them. I looked through several more pest control companies in the entire state, and I found nothing else that matched the company name.